told his version of the story, how I was being stupid and running over pigs with the truck. And hey there, and welcome to Matt's Garage and Car Stories with Matt. So today I wanted to talk about my time when I was actually working in a hog barn. I was a farrowing technician, which meant I looked after the little baby piglets and kind of did the injections and the tail docking and all that stuff when they're first born, the tattoos and everything. I actually have a tattoo on my arm here that's a piglet tattoo that I put on there myself. This would have been in about 2005, and at the time we had a 98 Dodge Ram single cab with the 5.9 Magnum engine in it, and that was our company truck. And I remember the very first day I worked there, they sent me into town in this truck, and I kind of tested it out as I did with all vehicles, and was pretty impressed with the old 5.9 there. Had some jam to it, so I always instantly enjoyed that truck, and it was a real beat up piece of junk. Some employees before apparently had taken it out hunting and smashed it through some ditches and basically bent up all the bumpers and broke all the plastic out from under it and that sort of thing. So it was a pretty messed up truck, and nobody respected it too much as a result. But anyways, every day pretty well we'd have to go over to the other site, and we had basically an open pit there where we dumped our bodies and our afterbirth and all that kind of stuff, and then covered it with hay, and eventually it would get buried in. And I guess that was the proper procedure at the time, or one of them, for disposing of that kind of thing. It was our job, and we took turns doing it to do dead runs, which was, we had to drive the truck a couple miles over to the other site with all the deads and dumping in the pit. And actually I didn't mind this. Most people didn't like it because, all the bad smell and everything. But to me, it was an opportunity to get out of the building, like half an hour early at the end of the day. And it was a driving job, and I always enjoyed driving. So, but there was a few flaws with it. And one of them was the fact that this truck was two-wheel drive. And the pit where we had to dump was like half a mile out into a field with no road, just like a muddy field. And we had to drive out there year round, so in the spring mud, and winter time in a couple feet of snow in a two-wheel drive truck. And so this poor truck would, really get beat on just to get it back there. We'd basically put it in reverse and line it up with the dead pit and just put this thing right to the floorboards and run her back there, and then it would be hopelessly stuck basically, and we'd have to push and pull and rock it and do whatever to get it back out of there. And that was just normal procedure because of the fact they gave us a two-wheel drive truck to do a four-wheel drive truck job. So basically everybody kind of had a bad attitude towards it for that reason too. It's like, you're giving us the wrong equipment to do the job, so we're not going to be very kind to it. I used to, admittedly horse around in this truck a little bit, drive it too quick and slide around corners in it and stuff, but I got the job done and never really wrecked anything, right? So, but this one day, the assistant manager was helping me load this huge dead sow into the back of the truck, and we had this overhead, crane to lift it up, and then the boom slid along and on a beam, and you could get it over the truck and in. Like, this is a biosecure barn, so if I'm outside with the truck, which I was loading this, and then there's the barn workers inside, so they kind of have to load the body on the crane inside the building and then kind of push it outside, and then from there I take it. And so I was pulling it onto the truck and dropping it down, and the manager or assistant manager, whatever, she's trying to boss me around and tell me where and when to drop it type thing. So I'm trying to, kind of follow her guidance and get it dropped down on the truck there, and it's like half off the edge of the truck, and I could just tell it's gonna slough off. So I'm like, no, I'm gonna have to, rehook it here so that I can get it further on the truck. And she's like, no, if you drive sensibly, it's not going to be a problem. I'm like, it is going to be a problem. It's going to fall out. And so anyway, she wouldn't hear of it, and I was forced to continue on doing something that again I knew wouldn't work, but it was the boss's orders, so you do it. So I really slowly this time drive down to the other site, like going about a third of the speed as I normally do, trying to avoid bumps. When I got to the other site, we had to go around the barn there and pick up their deads too. So I'm driving around there really slow, again avoiding all the bumps, and it actually looked like it was going to work. We got all the deads collected up, and we're doing the final, half mile out into this rough field to the pit, and I'm again driving really slow. Like, luckily the ground was dry that day, so I'm just putting along at like 2 or 3 miles an hour, and we hit this ever so slight bump, and that big cell just sloughed right off the back of the truck there. And I had somebody with me, but it's just like she was a female employee, not that meant anything, but she was just really small is what I'm trying to say. So she wasn't much help in moving this huge heavy dead animal around, and then she had a doctor's appointment she had to run to. So she ended up, her boyfriend picked her up and she took off on me, and I was left alone. So I drive back to the other site to talk to the assistant manager and tell her that exactly what I predicted would happen had in fact happened. And she's all mad at me, saying that I must have drove like an idiot going over there, and that's why I lost it. And I'm like, whatever, I'm not gonna, fight about it, but what do I do now? I've got this dead pig laying in the middle of the field, what do I do? And she's like, well, you can't leave it there. She's like, if we're inspected and that pig's found there, we're going to be fined $2,500 for leaving it there. So she's like, so-and-so has a chain in the back of his truck, I know, so go grab that chain and you pull it over to the pit. So I'm like thinking, and I'm like, that's not going to work, because I can only get it so close to the pit pulling it with the truck. I can't drive across the pit, so I can't pull it into the pit. And this is like an 800-pound dead animal. So anyways, whatever. I go and get the chain of so-and-so's truck, and he didn't know that I was taking his chain, and later was not too happy that I had taken his chain, but that was what the boss told me to do. So again, I did it, head back over there with the chain, hook onto the sow, and I pulled it, up to the pit, and then kind of pulled it up alongside the pit. And then that was as close as I could get it. It's still like 4 feet away, and this is really rough terrain. And so I'm like, what do? I get out of the truck and I'm trying to flip it over by hand and stuff, and I couldn't even budge it by myself. So I inched the truck up. This is just a 2-wheel drive truck, so it's not very high off the ground. And as I said, the bumpers are all bent up on it already. So I inch it up, and the front bumper actually lined up with the shoulder bone of the sow. It's like the head went under the front bumper, but then the shoulder bone stuck up enough that it caught under the bumper. And I start putting a little pressure on it, and it actually starts pushing it, and I get it within like 2 feet of the pit, and then there was like a hump before the pit, so the truck started riding up on the cell. So then I go to back up, and then of course the truck was in a hole and it wouldn't back up, and it got stuck there. So ultimately I had to get somebody else, another co-worker, to come over and help pull the truck out. Well, by then it looked like I had ran over this sow, because I was rocking the truck trying to get it out of the hole, so I ended up rocking it up on top of the sow. And anyways, the other co-worker helped me, but then he arrived into work early the next day and really burned me with the boss. Told his version of the story, how I was being stupid and running over pigs with the truck and da 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 da. So when I get into work, I instantly get a earful from the boss. And she tells me I'm never allowed to drive the company truck again and all this. And I'm like, fine. I'm literally the one that does all these dead runs and nobody else wants to do them. So if you want to pull me off doing them and give them to somebody else, they're not going to be too happy with you, but whatever. So anyways, it turned out that later on they reneged on that because, they realized I was the one doing the bulk of that grunt work, and so I eventually got my truck driving privileges back. And thanks a lot for watching Matt's Garage, and have yourself a great day.